Yeah, I'm Tig Crowley, an ex-farmer or mainly a grazier. We had a property in Moree, been in Sydney for 20 years. We sold our property about 12 years ago. And I've come down here and I'm a landscape designer in Sydney. This rear garden here has been a little bit of a joy. We started off, it was just basically all lawn except for the large trees. It's been a great learning experience for me, and I've made a few observations along the way and I've sort of turned them into experiments. And this little experiment is just basically a pile of leaves on top of some sandstone. So we're not in contact with the earth, and I suppose what I'm trying to show is that we can compost in situ. So we don't have to take our leaves, put them in a bin and all our other bits and pieces and then wait till they compost and bring them back. We can actually do it in situ. And this little one's just an example of how we can grow soil, which is basically compost, on top of some sandstone.
You see, as you get down here, it starts to be quite compacted. It's not soil yet at that level, but it's rapidly becoming soil.
My previous two experiments, in 1 year we've grown about 55 mil of soil each time, and so that's 55 mil in 1 year, so that's half a metre, a bit more than half a metre in 10 years, and 5 metres in 100 years. I was born in Coronabri, New South Wales, which is about 130 kilometres west of Moree, and we had a family farm out there which was 26,000 acres, and I absolutely knew nothing, but I thought I knew everything. When you have a look at any of the regenerative farmers or the people who are practicing, good ecology in any form of land management, they have at some stage realised that they are the problem. We are the problem, and until we realise that, we can't be a part of the solution. So we need to realise that our actions have an effect, and we just have to decide what effect we want our actions to have. This is just basically a water infiltration experiment, because the rate that we get a lot of heavy rainfall, and if it doesn't go into the soil very quickly, it runs off, and that's where we have a lot of trouble. It carries residue, we have erosion, we get floods, and then we go back to having droughts very quickly. This is just a cylinder with an open bottom, and it's into the ground about 50 mil, so water can't get out the side. Okay, so 8 litres, which is about here, is enough to fill that to the top if it wasn't getting away. So I've got a bit more than 8 litres in here, so I'll tip out about 1 litre just onto this bare old soil, and you can see how that's quickly running, and that's like a lot of soil is. It's hydrophobic, and we're down to about 8 litres now. So we put the clock on. All right. So putting 8 litres in here, and this is equivalent to 230 millimetres of rain, and we're starting now. So the second hand was at 10 past. If it wasn't getting away, it would be at the top by the time I finished pouring it, but it's getting away nearly as fast as I can pour it. You'd never have a rainfall event like this. Okay, that's taken 50 seconds to pour that in there. So what I poured in was 8 litres of water, which is enough to fill 230 millimetres into that cylinder. It took 50 seconds to pour it, and it was gone within 10 seconds of me finishing pouring. So it's an infiltration rate of 230 millimetres per minute. It's possibly because we've been living under these beautiful trees for a long time, but it's mainly because there's just such a build-up of life in this soil. And this water is going down and filling an aquifer, and the clay particles are hanging on to what they want and letting go of the rest of it. So I've never had to put in any irrigation in here. I've never done any watering, except for watering that and watering the little plants on the table. But compared to hard soil that we have in not only a lot of agriculture, We have it in a lot of national parks, we have it in a lot of gardens and nature strips. So if we can improve our soil to a condition where it has greater water infiltration ability, we'll stop a lot of flooding, and we'll mitigate a lot of temperature, and we'll prevent a lot of droughts, and we can also get to the stage where we can have an environment where we don't have fire. Yeah, I've been sort of involved in, I suppose, regenerative agriculture for quite some time, and I see it as it's as much about regenerative land management generally. So we're looking at the nature strips to national parks as well as agriculture, but it's really important as far as education, so we can make good decisions going into the future. So what happens is, even in misty rain, the moisture will form on a leaf and it'll come off as a full-size drop as it drops. So if we don't have understory, that's causing a lot of damage to basically the soil below. So we need plants, understory, we need cover on the soil. Water falling from those trees onto bare soil is going to erode it. And a classic example is just where we've got these little shade cloths here. You can pick up where the water is coming right from the trees, landing there, and where it's broken by the shade cloth. So trees alone aren't enough, we need understory. Trees are wonderful things, but if we don't have understory, then the water that falls from them and it lands on bare soil is going to be detrimental to the tree, but the tree will do a lot better if it's growing in amongst a lot of other plants, and we can have, it's a more is more situation rather than a less is more. And I suppose less is more is okay on the catwalk because it's very fashionable, but it's not so good with our biological ecosystem. If we can start working with the biological ecosystem, we can mitigate temperature. We can basically start getting water to go into the soil rather than running off. So, and we can also increase biodiversity significantly. And all those things mean we're advancing succession, and we're having a functioning ecosystem where water goes into the ground, doesn't run off, so we don't have floods, droughts, fires, dust, all the things that are basically in the news every 3 or 4 days. We can do in our own gardens and right through to the national parks.